Jonathan Frid was he was the star. He was the man. He was the show. He and Laura, in my opinion. A lot of people, Selby. So I sort of looked up to those folks as being pretty consummate in there. I had Jonathan was friendly. He was very professional and very involved. And I think he was at the time. I mean, he was hot stuff. People in college were watching that show, and in high school they were coming home. They were interested in it, and to this day I still have people that comment about it to this day. So my memories with Jonathan was that he was I know he lived over on the east side, not Upper East Side, Mid East Side. I don't recollect a great deal of involvement with him, except that I thought he was quite a gentleman. I was a little bit in awe of these people that were working on the show and working so fluidly. And that's about all I can tell you about Jonathan. Nothing personal. It was so campy. And Laura I was in awe of Laura. Laura was like doing a play and doing this and raising children, I think, at the time. And, we'd go over to her and she was like professional. And I have always been a little looser. I sort of lived in the moment. So years later we met and we really got along well, and we had a great time with each other many years later. And she was the same gal, those great big blue eyes. And I saw her in a different light, actually. At that time, she was one professional gal. She had her irons in a lot of different fires. She was very animated and very... I just keep thinking of that scene where I'm slashing at her with this burning fire, which I remember at the time. And if you look at that scene, it was real fire, stuff flying off. It was dangerous. It was weird. Although I was one hell of a good athlete. I handled that thing rather well. And that was my memories of her. I was in her, we were rehearsing Frank Vatican's Lulu, Earth Spirit. There's a trilogy of plays. And we attempted, that was later tried again on Broadway, I think. I think it might have been somewhat successful. We did it at the Sheridan Square Theater. And she was doing that. And she had a lot of other things going on. So we rehearsed at her house. I was still trying to remember my lines. The funny thing is I can memorize most anything. I mean, I can pick up a page and just get the gist of something. And so for all of you young people that want to be actors, make sure you don't memorize the words. Just get the ideas down. The words will come. The thoughts. Work is work, and work begets work. And in this case, certainly that nobody would ever hire me again after Dark Shade. No, it was a real introduction to me, and I'd never been in that environment, and and after that I did several others. I was somewhat shocked by the whole, man, you're moving and you got to be quick on your feet. You got to get going, and and it was intimidating to me. And so I learned, actually towards the end, when I realized I was leaving, I started to relax and do some pretty good work. So it was a definite step. And all the commercials, I probably did 100 commercials. They all helped. Being in front of a camera and, learning your stuff. And I did off-Broadway, I did summer stock. And I left there, I came back, and I was a better actor, but it's a slow process. It was a wonderful opportunity, and a very first opportunity, aside from some work I did in New York. Prior to that time, this was a big deal for me, and it was a big deal when they dismissed me at the time. So I went back to New York, and I did for about a year, and I replaced the character on Guiding Light many years later, 93, 94. And my wife and I Well, we lived down in the Battery. Right? I would come home and get involved with my own soap opera because, you know, you've got your own script, but you don't read all these. When you've got, like on Guiding Light, we had 15 different characters and storylines going left and right, and you try to get your sense of where you are, and some of it sometimes is related to nothing that other people are doing. I'd come home to watch my shows occasionally. Pretty soon I got caught up in the other characters and what they were doing. In my whole life, I would never have imagined that. And I imagine that's what happens to people. They get involved in their lives and their goings on and the amusement and the camp of it. And you like the people you're watching or you don't. And I got totally involved in my own show because I didn't know what was going on in my own show. And we would watch it. Either at lunch, I'd be watching the shows that I'd taped a week or two earlier. So to that extent, I would have to think that I think it has to do with humor, and I think it has to do with getting involved with these characters and relating to them in some level, you know, even though they're over the top. And today, they're so far over the top, it's astounding, although it actually isn't really, because my life is probably, if I put it on tape, it'd be just as big a soap opera as the one that's going on. I think, you know, I mean, you have your favorites. I think this show was so campy, and so the people love that. I mean, Dynasty, people loved it. I mean, they just loved it. It was so, they could get behind it and it would be so campy. And I could travel anywhere in the country, especially out of this town. People knew me in New York, by the way. They would see me from that very small stint on Dark Shadows, and they would walk up to me in the park, and, you know, people treat you differently. I understand that. When I see an actor that's somebody that's significant, I go, wow, who knows? I don't know why. You tell me. Why do we do that? It's interesting, I guess. Oh, I for years have received the book, and there's a whole group of people out there that have a fan base, and they've kept it alive, and it's a culture. I just found it amazing. People would send me pictures and send me tapes, ask me to sign things, and I didn't get terribly involved with it. I know a lot of people have really kept up with this, that have been on the show, that really were involved and go to the, I think Laura actually said she went back to New York and really is involved in that. I've never done that. It's interesting. People will write me, or they'll, from Europe or somewhere, and they'll say, we've watched your career, it's some marvelous, you've just, ba-da-ba-dee-ba-da, would you say? And they'll give me a list of all the things I've done that I can't remember some of these things. And I'm amazed that they've seen them or watched them. From an episode in an episodic show. I think probably the biggest thing was this thing was fun, campy. And everybody did the, when I watch the show, I start to laugh when I watch the clips. I mean, it is a hoot. It is a hoot. With all these years in between you,